Welcome to the ExoDexa channel. I am Dr. Leah Haynes. I'm the CEO of ExoDexa, and I am here with one of my favorite collaborators, Nolan Bushnell, who you may know from Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, and now the inspiration and game motivation behind all that we're doing at ExoDexa. So today we are talking about Spark and the importance of physical movement in learning. Nolan, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I met John Ratty, who is a medical PhD teaching at Harvard, and also he is a psychiatrist. And he discovered that he could treat an awful lot of mental problems with exercise. And the more research that he did, he found that he could enhance learning through proper exercise. Not a lot. Not a lot. All he had to do was get kids to get their heart rate up to an 80% level for about 20 minutes at the beginning of the day, and all of a sudden, ADHD goes away, their learning style increases, their learning outcomes increase. And he went into a few school districts, and instead of having the PE class at some random time during the day, he just asked that everybody exercise just 20, 30 minutes before class. And all of a sudden, the standardized tests of that school that did it, with no other change, increased by almost 26% or 27%. I forget the exact number. But he has written a book called Spark, which he outlines what it is. And I really recommend you to understand that a little bit and to buy the book and to get it. In fact, he licensed the book to China, and every school teacher was given a book by the Chinese government. So it's got some real impact.
I,
And
I'm so excited by this because, keeping kids sitting in rows is not conducive to learning. The more senses you can engage in the learning process, the better chance you have of the student remembering it. When my daughter was in high school, she was such a worrier about tests and studier, and I would make her take a break and we'd go for a walk and I'd have her notes and I'd sing silly songs to her using the notes that she had written for herself. And she'd be, "Oh, Mom, that's so ridiculous." And then the next day she'd say, all I could hear when I was writing that test was your crazy songs about these ideas. And I think that's just, adding exercise, adding movement and laughter to anything we're trying to teach is going to anchor it in better.
well, it's funny. It reminds me of another study that I read about smell. And it turns out that, and I forget the university that did this, but they basically said they gave kids a group of toothpicks that were in cinnamon oil or eucalyptus oil or peppermint oil or you know various smells, various tastes. And they said, when you're studying, suck on this. Then when you take the test, when you're taking a test in mathematics, that's cinnamon. When you take a class in history, that's peppermint.
Mm.
And again, they found that the kids that did that outperformed the base group by a significant margin. And they thought it was, in some cases, as much as 50% higher.
Wow.
And so this mind-body connection is something that I think that we need to do much more experimentation with and much more traction with.
Hmm.
Um, with I'm going to geek out for a minute, but it turns out that what happens when you exercise aggressively for just 20 minutes, your brain secretes a chemical called BDNF. And it's been described to me that that chemical is actually a precursor protein to dendrite growth. And this hasn't been proven. This is just speculation. But they believe that perhaps your brain being flooded with BDNF allows some of the things that you're learning to be put into hardware, into synapse creation. We know we have X number of neurons, and I kill neurons all the time with the amount of wine that I drink. but but at the same time, I think that anytime you have outcomes that are enhanced by an activity, I think it's a good idea.
I agree, Nolan. And there were a few things that came to mind while you were talking about that. We work with a fellow, Tim Griffin, he was an educator for 18 years, and this is not about the physical activity, but the sort of engagement of other senses and the ability to remember. His goal is to put K through 8 uh, curriculum to music, and he's well into it. He has 6 CDs going now, and still, and I constantly played them in the car when I had my grandchildren with me from the time they were infants on. And there are things like a song about eukaryotic cells and a song about Newton's law and I want to be an engineer. They were all really interesting songs. And I know that because my granddaughter would tell me, like when I was in class and they were talking about eukaryotic cells, I realized I knew what they were talking about. I remembered it. And there were times when she would tell me, I remember what I was looking at out the car window when I heard that part of the song. And then I realized that also for me, I listen to books when I'm walking in the morning. And there's a particular hill that's a real slog to get up. And I can remember what I'm listening to on that hill better than I can remember other parts of the book. And it didn't occur to me until you were just saying that it is probably a part of what John writes about in Spark. I wonder if we could get John to come and talk to us one of these days.
I think so. I've had lunch with him 2 or 3 times. He actually lives in he is bicoastal. He worked, at Harvard, but I think he has a house and a wife or a girlfriend in Santa Monica.
Well, maybe
Um,
one is on the East Coast and the other one's on the West Coast, so that would make sense.
Perhaps. No.
We'll check with him when we get him on. But I think that's good for today. And thank you, Nolan. Thank you for those of you who've been with us today. And please check out the ExoDexa channel and join us because we are on a mission. We are here to improve the educational experience for children and teachers. And we want you on the mission with us. So thank you. Thank you, Nolan.
And don't forget, click the subscribe button, and that'll keep you coming back to our parlay on a regular basis. Oh, before we quit, I got to tell you my current favorite joke. The past, present, and future walked into a bar. It was tense.
I love that, Nolan. So now people will stay till the end to get your jokes. So there you go. Thanks so much, everybody.